We are Kentucky, Tennessee living, and here we are at the West Tennessee Cotton Museum, located in West Tennessee Delta Heritage Center in Brownsville, Tennessee. Come along with us as we discover the tools that were used to create textiles not so long ago. As with all of our museum videos, the script that we use is the plaques that the museum has on the walls and other places. We do not add nor do we take away from the wording of these plaques. All of these videos are made for education and entertainment purposes only. The bridle is used to control the animal's movements. It consists of straps that fit securely on the animal's head and a metal bit that fits in its mouth. On loan from Mrs. Evelyn Anderson of Haywood County. The hames are two curved pieces attached to each side of the collar. The traces are two long straps, ropes, or chains that connect the harness to the equipment. One end is attached to the hames and the other is hooked to the equipment. On loan from Mrs. Evelyn Anderson of Haywood County. The middle buster was another type of plow used for preparing the soil for planting. This plow had two curving plates, or mold boards, instead of one like the breaking plow. Some called it a two-mule shovel plow. The field was ready for planting once the middle buster had been used to run down the middle of the rows and throw the soil to each side. In 1875, a horse-drawn plow was built with a seat and wheels so the farmer could ride along while tilling. Nevertheless, the walking plow, such as the middle buster, continued in use even after the tractor plow was invented. On loan by Fred N. Gause of Ripley, Tennessee. Jute or burlap. Jute or burlap is a coarse, heavy cloth woven with yarns from fiber of the jute plant. It is tan in color, and the cloth comes in many different widths and weights. Its main use is for bags in the agriculture and industrial products. It takes approximately 6 yards of jute to cover a bale of cotton. However, most bales are now packaged in plastic bagging. The jute or burlap used on this bale was donated by the L. P. Brown Company, Incorporated of Memphis, Tennessee. Cotton scales and hoist. After the ginning process, the separating of the lint from the seed and debris, the cotton would be compacted into approximately 500-pound bales. The bales would be bound by steel straps and wrapped in burlap for protection during shipping. If a farmer elected to sell his cotton directly to the cotton gin company, this method of weighing lint cotton would determine a farmer's yield per pound per acre. As a rule of thumb, 1,500 pounds of harvested field cotton would net a farmer 500 pounds of lint fiber. Debris and the cotton seed itself would make up the remaining 1,000 pounds. The cotton gin company would accept the cotton seed as payment for ginning the farmer's cotton. The cotton seed is valuable for hundreds of uses, such as reproduction, feed, seed oil, and the seed cellulose is used for toothpaste and cosmetics. The lint cotton would be woven into fabric for such things as blue jeans, towels, bed sheets, and even paper money. It would have been impossible in a day's time not to come in contact with the cotton in some form. The scale and hoist are all known from Darrell Cox, Henderson County, Tennessee. Side harrow, circa early to mid 1900s. After the farmer plows the ground, he must break the clods of earth into smaller pieces with the harrow before planting the cotton. Most farmers tried to harrow the land as soon as possible to prevent hard, dry clods from forming and rapid evaporation of the freshly plowed soil. The surface of the soil is now fine and even and ready for planting. Under certain conditions, the harrow was an excellent instrument to loosen the crust after a rain or kill numerous young weed plants. If the cotton was up to a good stand, the use of the harrow was quite effective in thinning out some of the plants too. This might have also assisted in reducing the amount of time spent in chopping. On loan by Thomas O. and Madeline Timbers of the J. L. Woodrow family in Haywood County, Tennessee. Double shovel plow, circa early to mid 1900s. The prime reason for the cultivation of cotton was to kill the weeds and grass. It also stirs, loosens, and pulverizes the soil to conserve the moisture in the soil, as well as help the soil to absorb rainwater. While the cotton was small, the farmer could easily clean out a row with one shovel plow for deep cultivation. But after the plant root grows 2 or 3 inches, deep plowing would destroy the plant's feeding capacity. Therefore, the old one-shovel plow gave way fast to the shallow cultivator, with several shovels for later cultivating. As the cotton grew, it was important to cultivate just deep enough to control weed growth, but never deep enough to damage the feeding root. Each cultivating tool had its advantage, but its use was probably not as important as it was the timeliness of the cultivation and the thoroughness with which the job was done. On loan by Thomas O. and Madeline Timbers of J. L. Woodrow family in Haywood County, Tennessee. Primitive roller gin, circa 1742 to 1793. The primitive Churka gin, somewhat similar in principle to our roller gin, was used in India for many centuries. It consisted of two parallel horizontal wooden rollers, so adjusted that they barely touched. To one of these was attached a handle. This crude machine would remind one of a hand-closed wringer on a wash machine. As the handle was turned, the seed cotton was fed into the roller by hand. The lint was pulled between the rollers and thereby separated from the seeds which, because of their size, could not pass between them. This type of gin would not work satisfactorily with any but smooth-seeded kinds of cotton, such as Sea Island and American Egyptian. 5 pounds of lint cotton was a fair day's work with one of these primitive gins. Some of the primitive gins were of slightly different construction by having a fluted wooden rollers, and others had one small iron roller and larger wooden roller. On loan by Sidney Talley, Jr. of Ripley, Tennessee. Scraper, circa 1850s to 1950s. The scraping of cotton with either the common scraper or the disc scraper was at one time the only means of cleaning grass and weeds from the sides of the rows. The use of a scraper reduced the amount of chopping area for the choppers and thereby reduced the cost of chopping. When the horse-drawn equipment was used in the cultivation of young cotton, such tools as the scraper were effective. Each tool had its advantages, but it should be pointed out that the particular type of cultivating tool was used probably not as important as the timeliness and cultivation and thoroughness in which the job was done. On loan by Fred N. Gause of Ripley, Tennessee. Fertilizer distributor. Fertilizer was drilled into a furrow with a fertilizer distributor, or knocker, running a scooter plow 5 inches wide on each side to cover it. The bed was then built over the furrow, running a turning plow 7 inches deep on each side of the scooter furrow and throwing the dirt over them. This placed the seed bed safely above the fertilizer, since if the seeds came into close contact with the fertilizer, they would rot. Primitive planter, circa 1700s to late 1800s. The old way of putting seed in the ground was for one man to open holes with a hoe, the desired distance apart, a second to drop the seeds, and another to cover them with the earth. It took the 3 workmen all day to plant an acre and a half of land. With the invention of the cotton planter, the farmer could plant 8 acres a day. As the mule pulled the planter down the row, the blade beneath the hopper would open up a small furrow. The seed would then drop from the hopper, and the rear wheel would cover the seed. While the primitive planter served its purpose, it was far from being ideal. It was not enough to just drop the seed. The right quantity and location as to where the seed was dropped confirmed the need for a much more regulated planter. On loan by James Hughes of Brownsville, Tennessee. Planter and fertilizer distributor. circa early to mid 1900s. Granular commercial fertilizer was distributed in different ways. This implement was used to distribute the fertilizer into the soil at the same time as the seed was planted. This was accomplished by the planter having a plow in front of an open furrow, a fertilizer box to drill the fertilizer, and a seed box from which the seed dropped into the furrow, and a board or wheel behind to cover the seed and firm the soil on top of them. A good rule to follow for the placement of granular fertilizer when applied at the same time as planting cottonseed was to place the fertilizer about 2 inches to the side or 2 inches or more below the seed. Cotton classing. After the cotton lint is baled at the gin, samples are taken from each of the cotton bales and classified according to fiber strength, staple length, length of uniformity, color, non-fiber content, and fineness using high-volume instrumentation and the aid of an expert. Scientific checks are made periodically to ensure accuracy is maintained. Staple refers to fiber length. Cotton of a given variety produces fibers about the same length, since the fibers may vary within a bale. Length uniformity allows a determination of the variability within the bale. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has established classing standards in cooperation with the industry. Grade. Skilled experts judge cotton on the basis of grade, staple, and preparation. The grade shows the amount of trash in the sample, the color of the fiber, and any discoloration due to insects and disease. The main grades of cotton fibers are from the best to the poorest. Strict middling, middling, strict low middling, low middling, strict good ordinary, and good ordinary. Information from the National Cotton Council of America. Cotton samples on loan from the Nunn Cotton Company, Brownsville, Tennessee. Cotton sampling knife. A cotton sampling knife is used by buyers to cut into the bales to determine the grade and fiber quality of cotton. The knife seen here has a full tang with a fixed blade and triple rivets. This particular blade pattern is a hybrid between a cotton sampling knife, pruning knife, and a sheep foot knife. This allows the knife to be multi-purpose, but the owner of this blade used it mainly for cotton sampling. These knives are still in use today. Plantation bale, circa early 1800s to mid 1800s. The plantation bale or farm bale served many purposes. On many plantations and farms, the bell was rung at the beginning of the work day, meal time, or in case of an emergency. Bells originated in 800s BC and were probably one of the first means of communication for a town, or any group of people living within a few miles of each other. Bells were rung for curfews, death, any meetings, church worship, and even to remind people to pay their taxes. In pioneer days in America, bells were used to warn of Indian attacks. On the plantation or farm, the bell was usually hung from a wooden platform or pole. The bell was swung to make the metal clapper strike it. The plantation bells served many different purposes for many folks, and their sound was a familiar part of daily life. We at Kentucky Tennessee Living want to thank you for watching our series on the museums of the West Tennessee Delta Heritage Center. Don't forget to hit the like button, as the more likes we receive, the more likely YouTube is to suggest our videos to other viewers. Also, to receive notice of when we upload a new video, be sure to subscribe and click the bell for notifications. We thank you for continuing to support Kentucky Tennessee Living as we bring to you the history of the Appalachian Mountains.